Welcome to Mercy Medical Center's live webinar. I am Lynn Dennis, Program Coordinator, and today's topic is osteoporosis, the silent disease. Joining us is Luann Weber, Mercy Occupational Therapy. After a discussion, she will take questions from our audience. To submit your questions anytime during the discussion, go to the window in the upper right-hand corner of your screen and type in your question. If you don't see the screen, click on the orange box with the white arrow, and your questions will be confidential. Well, welcome to the webinar, Luann. I'm going to turn the mic over to you now so we can go ahead and get started.
Thanks, Lynn. Okay, so what we're going to talk about today is osteoporosis. And what I want to do to begin with is just tell you the difference between osteoporosis, osteopenia, and osteoarthritis. These three terms often get interchanged and people don't specifically know which each one means. So I'm going to describe and explain which of these is osteoporosis and what that means and how it differs from osteopenia and osteoarthritis. Osteoporosis is called the silent disease because it doesn't have any symptoms. You don't know that you have it until you break a bone or you shrink in height. It's what it is porous bone. It's got holes in your bones. It's below what is normal and healthy. Osteopenia is a precursor to osteoporosis. It just means that you have low bone density. It is somewhat difficult in knowing when to have treatment for osteopenia. Again, your doctor will let you know that, but it's a good time when you have osteopenia to start on medicine and to do some of the things that I'm going to talk about later to start building your bone up so it doesn't grow into osteoporosis. Osteoarthritis is a painful disease. It's wear and tear of your joints and your cartilage. There's a cushion between all your joints, and as you age, and it depends on how active you are and what kind of activities you're involved in, that cushion is worn down, and eventually it will become bone on bone. Osteoarthritis also is building too much bone, and so when you build up too much bone, it can form into the form of like a little hook or a spur. You've maybe heard of bone spurs on the bottom of your heel. When you walk on that, that's very painful because there's a little sharp, sticky point out that tears into your tissue, and every step you take, you can feel that spur on that heel. Another place that you often have bone spurs are your shoulders and your knees. What's inside a bone? Most people think that bone is just a hard structure that keeps your body upright, but bone is alive. There is collagen in it inside the bone. It's a framework that's soft, but it's a protein. Calcium phosphate is the mineral that adds strength, and it hardens the framework of your bone. It makes the outside of your bone very strong so that when you fall, you don't break that bone. There are two kinds of cells in your bone. Number one is osteoclasts, which decrease bone cells, and osteoblasts, which increase or build bone cells. By the time we're at age 30, we have the best bone health that we will ever have. So it's important when you're young to build up good bone, to have calcium in your diet, to exercise, because that is the main time when you can grow as the best bone possible. I'm going to talk about some management strategies to make sure that you do have good bone health. Number one, eat calcium-rich foods and vitamin D-rich foods, or you can take supplements. You need to exercise, and the type of exercise is important. You need to do joint compression exercises, and that means that you are going to actually make your joints jar against each other. So when you walk stairs, the joints are going to compress against each other when you're going to run or walk fast. There's a lot of really good exercises out there, but they don't always have that joint compression component to them. Swimming is a great exercise, but just swimming it does not make those joints compress against each other. You want to have a healthy lifestyle. Don't drink or smoke excessively. Smoking can decrease the testosterone or estrogen in your body, and you need both of those hormones to build good bone. You want to have a bone density test. You want to have the first one if you are through menopause or if you've noticed you've lost height. You want to be on medications if it's appropriate for you. The risk factors for getting osteoporosis or osteopenia. This is one time where it's good to be heavier, because the smaller frame you have, the more likely you are to have low bone density. And one of the reasons is that because if you're heavier, the weight of your body actually makes that joint, though your joints compress against each other every time you walk. So that your bones are telling your brain that, hey, we need more bone build up because this person is heavier, or this person is going to continue to walk the stairs or continue to run. So your brain actually makes more bone if you do that exercise or if you have a large body frame. If your family has had osteoporosis in the past, you're more likely to get osteoporosis yourself. There's 80% of women that have osteoporosis and 20% of men. And again, men have less hormones or have testosterone that build the bone in them, and women have estrogen. And the lack of hormones can cause osteoporosis. Prolonged use of medications, especially steroids, which is prednisone. The diseases that you would take the steroids for would be lupus, asthma, thyroid, and seizures. If you have low calcium intake, if you just don't like milk or calcium products or lactose intolerant, you're going to have a lower calcium intake than people that really do like calcium products. Lack of physical activity, again, the joint compression exercises and activity, you want to be more active and do those joint compression activities. I always talk about low calcium intake and lack of physical activity in kids. Kids nowadays, they have more video games and they're on the couch more. They don't get outside as much, and they also don't drink a lot of milk. They drink soft drinks much more than they have milk. Smoking and alcohol intake, again, both interfere with production of estrogen and testosterone. And also people that tend to have a high alcohol intake kind of skip meals and eat less nutritious meals. You want to avoid risky movements if you have osteoporosis or osteopenia. Forward bending is bending your vertebrae forward all the time, and so you can get a compression fracture. And a compression fracture is just when the vertebrae collapses because the bone is full of air. Pretend that osteoporotic bone is more like a sponge with a lot of holes in it, and good bone is more like a wooden stick. You know, the stick is full of, doesn't have any holes, doesn't have any air hole or air pockets in, but the sponge does. So your vertebrae can collapse very easily, especially if you do forward bending and twisting. You don't want to do a lot of heavy lifting if you have severe osteoporosis, because just the weight of that heavy object can put pressure on your vertebrae and it can cause a compression. And compression fractures are very, very painful. They take a long time to heal, and there's really not much you can do other than just wait and for about 2 to 3 months before they completely heal. You want to avoid twisting motions because it can put some unusual force on your spine, especially in the thoracic area. You don't want to reach overhead to extremes, because if you have a severe stoop posture, which is a kyphosis, that's kind of a hump on your back. You've all seen women or men with a real stoop posture with a big hump on their back. And that is because those vertebrae have kind of collapsed in the front of your spine, and so that collapses and you form the hump on your back. But if you reach way overhead, you will go into complete extension, and those vertebrae will collapse posteriorly or in the back of your spine. You do not want to fall if you have severe osteoporosis because you will more than likely break a bone. You want to look into some adaptive equipment, and there's two different kinds of adaptive equipment. One of them is to just be safe in your home so that you don't fall, and the other is like using a walker or crutches or a cane, especially when you go outside on ice in the wintertime. It's very, very important for people that have osteoporosis not to fall on the ice. They have the little clips that go onto your boots or your shoes. That's a very safe method of walking outside. And then also, if you are walking on uneven ground or on uneven surfaces, you want to use a cane or a walker. Especially take care when you're walking outdoors. Wear good footwear. Keep your home free of clutter. Pick up your throw rugs, any loose cords or toys, or be careful of pets that you don't fall over them. Safe bathroom setup. You can get shower chairs, grab bars, raised toilet seats. You can get a bench that fits into a tub that you never have to actually step over the tub. You can just sit down and scoot over on it. And then don't scrimp on the electric bill. You need good lighting in your home. You especially need a night light at night to know where you're going when you have to get up and go to the bathroom. We talked about throw rugs. Be smart and not stubborn. I have a good friend of mine who is in her late 80s, and she still gets on her roof. She shovels snow. She's got osteoporosis, and it just can take one fall off the roof, or when she twists in the wrong way, to give her a compression fracture. So you have to kind of think about what it's going to cost for outside help to help you get your lawn mowed or your sidewalk shoveled. Compare that to a nursing home, because many people who do fracture a hip or have a compression fracture will end up in a nursing home or an assisted living. You want to do exercises, including a weight-bearing exercise program that I talked about before. And in addition to that, you need a balance program and core strengthening. The stronger you are in your core from your neck to your legs, the less likely you are to fall. A balance program, an easy balance program, is to just stand at a kitchen counter or your sink and keep one or two hands on the counter, and then just try standing on one leg. And the last thing I have your vision and hearing tested. When you are standing on that one leg, if you're really good at that and don't let go of the counter, then try closing your eyes, and you will just be amazed at how much you use vision for balance. But you do want your vision and hearing tested, because you also take in all the sounds that will help you keep your balance and your vision as well. Get new glasses, and remember that when you take your meds, if you have a side effect of dizziness after you take your meds, just be aware of that. Also, a lot of people have low blood pressure. So when they get up out of bed or come to stand from sitting, they'll feel dizzy. What you need to do is just take a few moments and get your bearings before you go off and walk so you don't fall. Here's just a cost analysis that I did regarding a nursing home versus staying in your own home. So the average cost of a nursing home is about $209 per day, and that equals $6,270 a month. You take that, the 209 by 365 days a year, and that's $75,240. You can get a lot of outside help with shoveling snow or cleaning your house or mowing your lawn for that amount of money. And I think we all want to stay in our house, in our home, and be as independent as possible. Here's a diagram of how much calcium that you need. Again, teenagers, they're trying to build that bone up, so they're going to need 1,300 milligrams of calcium. And then it's basically 1,200 milligrams of calcium for anybody age 51 and over. You only absorb 600 milligrams of calcium at a time, so what you want to do is space your calcium intake throughout the day. Some people are prescribed actually a 1,000 milligram capsule of calcium, and they take that, but 400 of those milligrams are being wasted. So you want to take one tablet in the morning, and if you take like a 600 milligram tablet of calcium and you take that with breakfast and have cereal, so a glass of milk is like 300 milligrams of calcium. So you're not getting the 900 milligrams that you think you're getting. You're only able to take 600 of that into your system at one time. So you remember to space the calcium out throughout the day. Vitamin D is very important because it allows the absorption of the calcium. You can take as much calcium as you want. You can eat healthy, but if you don't have enough vitamin D in your system, you're not going to absorb the calcium that you do take in. The Midwest and Iowa, you can only benefit from the sunshine from May through September. We just don't have the amount of sunshine that is going to be real helpful for vitamin D absorption. Caffeine is a diuretic, so if you have 3 caffeinated beverages a day, you're going to need to boost your calcium intake a little bit because you're washing that calcium out through the caffeine. It's very difficult to get enough vitamin D through foods because some of the vitamin D foods include liver, egg yolks, and fatty fish. So unless you just are crazy about those 3 things, it's really difficult to get the vitamin D through the food. So what you need to do is probably take a vitamin D tablet. And the new recommendations are for at least 1,000 units per day. Bone density testing is done here at Mercy in the Women's Center. Insurance does cover that, and Medicare pays that as well. It will pay every 2 years if you have osteoporosis. How long does it take? The test is so simple. It only takes about 15 minutes. You don't even have to take your clothes off. You just lie on a mat, and there's a machine that goes over your hips. It measures the bone density in your spine and in your hips. It tells you what your T-score is, and the T-score is the average bone density of someone age 30 that weighs the same amount as you do and is the same sex. So they've taken thousands and thousands of people at age 30. They've done bone density tests on them, and that is what the average is, and that's what they base that on. So if you're a +1 to a -1, you have normal bone density. That's good. You're good to go. If you have -1 to -2.5, you are just starting to show that you are losing bone. If you have -2.5 to -3.5, you have full-blown osteoporosis. And anything below -3.5, and if you've had a fracture, you have severe osteoporosis. So what's the next step? I advise you to see your physician and ask for a bone density test. If you're through menopause, you're losing height, you're thin and over age 50, you've had poor calcium intake in the past and the present. If you're lactose intolerant, you dislike dairy products, you probably haven't been getting enough calcium in your system. And if you have all of the above and have suffered a fracture. And sometimes you can also have osteoporosis just because you have a family history. You don't necessarily need to be in any of these categories. You just get it from your family genes. So if you have any questions or if you want more information, just call Mercy Occupational Therapy. You can email me at lweber@mercycare.org. And my phone number is on the screen there. It's 398-6514. Okay, I'm going to give you back to Lynn.
Right. Thank you, Luann. A lot of good information there. Now, to remind you, our listeners, your questions can be submitted online. And if you can't see the box, click on the orange box, the white arrow in the upper right-hand corner of your screen, and type in your questions, and we'll be able to see them from our end and ask the questions. Okay. Our first question, Luann, is you talked about bone spurs earlier on. What causes bone spurs?
Okay, Lynn. Bone spurs are caused by too many osteoclasts that are osteoblasts. They build up too much bone in the form of little hooks, and they're called spurs. And like I said before, these are one of the things that do cause pain, especially in your shoulder. You can have bone spurs in your joint, and those little bone spurs get snagged on the nerves coming down through your joints. So that will cause some nerve pain in your shoulder especially. And the osteoclasts that break down bone, it's through a special enzyme that breaks down the surface of the bone and makes little holes in them. So yeah, it's just too much osteoblast being causing up too much bone. And that is, again, a sign of osteoarthritis, not osteoporosis.
Okay, Luann, next question. I drink 3 cups of coffee every morning. Should I avoid taking any calcium tablets until later in that day? And then how much should I increase my calcium intake because I am a coffee drinker?
The amount of caffeine that you drink, if it's over 3 cups a day, and it really doesn't matter when you take the calcium, as long as you get the amount of calcium that you're going to need for your age group. That's basically what you need to remember. Now, when you take the tablet with milk or a dairy product, that's a different thing. You have to spread that out during the day. But just drinking coffee, you can drink, 3-4 cups in the morning. It doesn't matter when you take the calcium tablets. And you should probably increase your calcium by, I'd say 200 milligrams if you drink over 3 cups of coffee, or caffeinated beverages. It can be pop as well.
Okay, very good guidelines there. Now, you talked about when to get a bone density test, but how often should it be repeated if your baseline test is good?
If you have a baseline test that is good, that you have good normal bone health, you do not need to repeat it until you have symptoms such as if you break a bone or if you start losing height. So that's when you would have that. And if you have a bone density test that shows that you have osteopenia, then I would recommend that you do that every 2 years. Some doctors will give you medicine when you have osteopenia, and sometimes they hold off on that. The thing with medications is that it takes a long time for the medications to build up the bone. It's a very slow process. So if you have osteopenia, it is a good idea to be put on medication. The thing that's so advantageous to our generation is that we have these drugs that we can build up the bone. I know my mother and my mother-in-law had horrible osteoporosis, and they never ever had a bone test. My mother-in-law would just reach for the phone, and she would crack some ribs, or she would cough if she had pneumonia, and she would break ribs just because she was coughing. That's how bad her osteoporosis was, and nobody offered her ever a bone density test or any calcium. So we're very fortunate to be able to take advantage of these medications.
Okay, we've had a question come in while you were addressing that same issue, but I'll see if you want to add anything else to it. The question was, how long does it typically take for meds to slow the bone loss process and starts building some of that bone back up? So anything else you wanted to add related to that?
Yeah, it takes a long time. Everybody is different. The one thing I do want to say is that if you are on osteoporosis medicine, you also want to continue taking the calcium, because that's something that a lot of people think, well, I'm on osteoporosis medicine, I don't really need to take the calcium, but yes, you do. You do still need to take the calcium. The type of medicine that we get is biphosphonates, and they reduce the osteoclasts in your body so that your bone doesn't get broken down as fast. And some of those medications are Fosamax and Actonil, and men and women can both use those. The medicine that you're prescribed can be either a daily pill, it can be a weekly pill, a monthly, it can be a nasal spray, it can be a shot once a year. The bad thing with some of the medicines that we take are that they do cause stomach upset. And the other thing that you have to watch out for is jaw necrosis, which means that there's the bone in your jaws that start to decay or die. And so if you are taking these medications and you have stomach upset, then you need to talk to your doctor. And that's the reason if you do have a stomach upset and you have severe osteoporosis, they'll often give you a nasal spray. The other reason that they give them once a year or give them in a shot form is that a lot of people do have severe osteoporosis and they can't tolerate taking the medicine. So I know we see the commercials on TV, and Beniva is once a year, once a month, and that's the reason is that they can't take that very often because they do have stomach problems. And then there's some medicines too that are specific for men and women. Evista is a drug that can help prevent breast cancer recurrence, and so a lot of times cancer patients that have had breast cancer will be put on Evista, which is just a type of osteoporosis drug. The one other thing that I haven't talked about is cancer patients, when they have estrogen-positive tumors, they are put on a specific medication, a chemo medication, and that medication will stop all of the estrogen from entering your body. And we talked about the hormone estrogen is very important for building bone. So those are the people that will tend to get osteoporosis, and they oftentimes are put on an osteoporosis medication as well.
Okay, related to those questions, is there a point at which meds no longer work?
Well, what you have to do is go to your doctor and get a bone density test to see if they're no longer working. If your bone density decreases or it gets worse after when you've had a bone density test, that might be an indication that the meds are no longer working, or it just means that your history, genetics, just not that hot, that you might just be prone to osteoporosis. The other thing you may have to look at is, are you really getting enough calcium and vitamin D in your diet? You think that you get enough calcium, but it's sometimes very hard, especially if you work. How often do you have milk or a milk product for lunch? Yogurt is a good example, or cottage cheese. They're both good examples of high calcium foods, but it's just really hard to get out those 3 good portions of calcium in a day. So yeah, there is a point sometimes when meds no longer work, and then there's also, if you start with meds when you only have osteopenia, you can build up your bone so that you don't have to take the drugs any longer because you have good bone health, and you just need to follow up and make sure that you're maintaining that good bone health.
Now, a tape of this program will be available at mercycare.org/live with Hello, we may have disconnected our headphone, so if we lost audio here, that was the reason why, but we'll just power on through, and I think we're connected again here. as I was saying, tape of this program will be available, and give us a day or so usually to get it posted. And you can always check this website for information about future webinars and listen to the past webinars. Our next webinar topic is Manage Your Stress and Sleep Better with Megan Esch, a counselor with Mercy Family Counseling and EAP. This will be broadcast Thursday, May 30th from noon to 1. And she will take your questions live after her discussion also. Now, if you're interested in future Mercy webinars or events, you may sign up for Mercy's e-newsletter at www.mercycare.org/e-news. Check to see if we have any last questions. Looks like we are good, but again, if you have additional questions, Luann can be reached at the number on the screen, 319-398-6514, or her email address. So thank you all for joining us today.